Hi, welcome to part 2 of my review of the Nikon ZFC. In part 1 I looked at the camera's body and controls and its stills related features. In this part I'll be looking at its video features and summing up. The main reason I bought this camera was its video support. My previous D5300 didn't support 4K and its video autofocus was just plain hopeless. Even when it had recognised a face, it would continue to hunt in and out, meaning that I usually resorted to manual focus. No such complaints with the ZFC, however. It just works. It recognises my face or eyes if I'm close enough, and then follows me smoothly and reliably without any hint of focus hunting. You put the ZFC into video mode with the mode selector switch on the top plate. This enables the record button and microphones and changes the display. Compared to the options available in stills mode, the ZFC's video features are relatively straightforward. You can shoot movies in either 1080p or 4K. In 1080p, frame rates of 24, 25, 30, 50, 60, 100 and 120 frames per second are supported. There are 3 slow motion options for the 24, 25 and 30 FPS settings, giving you a 4 or 5 times speed reduction. In 4K you can only shoot 24, 25 and 30 frames per second with no slow motion options. In line with the ZFC's no-nonsense approach, all of these modes are shot using the full width of the sensor without any crop being applied. In fact, the only crop that's applied is when you are using electronic vibration reduction. In the 16:9 aspect ratio, the ZFC sensor resolution is 5568 by 3128 pixels. This is roughly 45% greater than the 3840 by 2160 resolution of standard 4K. Obviously there's some form of oversampling or pixel binning going on, but Nikon do not describe this. The ZFC doesn't have the log output of the Z50 Mark II, or its full-frame cousins, but it does have a flat picture control that is suitable for colour grading. In fact, you can apply any of the camera's picture controls to video, allowing a wide range of effects to be obtained. One disappointment with the flat profile is that there don't seem to be any LUTs available for it, so you're pretty much on your own. The fully articulated screen makes filming yourself easy, and the remote control can be used to start and stop recording. This is particularly useful when you're in front of the camera as opposed to behind it. Videos are limited to a maximum of 29 minutes and 59 seconds of duration. I think this is an outmoded World Trade Organization licensing issue rather than a technical one, and has to do with the definition of a digital camera versus a video camera. Technically, I don't think there's anything other than battery power stopping the recording of longer videos. The fact that the Z30 and the Z50 Mark II don't have this limit seems to confirm this. I performed a stamina test with the EN-EL25 battery and was able to record a total of either 130 minutes of 1080p video or 85 minutes of 4K before the battery was exhausted. I would expect to get another 15 to 20 minutes with the new EN-EL25A battery. Using USB-C power delivery to power the ZFC whilst you're shooting video comes with a few caveats. The user guide doesn't state how much power is required, but it does say that you need a cable with a USB-C connector at both ends. Presumably, this is because a USB-A to USB-C cable isn't capable of delivering sufficient power. Fortunately, the manual for the Z50 Mark II states a minimum power requirement of 27 watts, so I tried this 30 watt USB-C PSU from Anker. With this, I seem to be able to power the camera more or less indefinitely. After 2.5 hours of shooting 30-minute 4K video clips, I got bored and stopped. Although my ZFC got warm, there was no hint of overheating. Footage shot in either 1080p or 4K is crisp and detailed, with pleasing colours. The ZFC sensor isn't stacked, so readout speeds will be the main limiting factor on frame rates. In 1080p, there are 2 quality options, normal and high. These affect the amount of compression and the resulting data rates of the recorded footage. At a frame rate of 25 frames per second, normal quality corresponds to around 14 megabits per second and high to about twice this. Upping the frame rate to 50 or 60 frames per second, the data rate maxes out at around 56 megabits per second. By way of comparison, a Blu-ray disc will typically use a maximum of about 40 megabits per second, so at 25 frames per second, a high quality setting is around 2/3 of the theoretical maximum quality of Blu-ray. There are no quality options for 4K, with all the available frame rates delivering the same data rate of about 144 megabits per second. This is actually higher than a typical ultra-high def movie, which is usually closer to 128 megabits per second. The ZFC can record video in one of two file formats, .mov or .mp4. There's no difference in the data rates as both formats use the same H.264 video codec. The only real difference is the audio codec. Linear PCM is used for the .mov files, think CD format, and AAC is used for MP4 files. Both of these have a fixed sample rate of 48 kHz. Another consequence of not having a stack sensor is the potential for rolling shutter. Despite this, the ZFC doesn't appear to suffer unduly from this problem. As I mentioned earlier, the ZFC's video autofocus is both fast and reliable, and unlike some of its competitors, doesn't seem to suffer from focus hunting. There are two options that affect the speed of video focusing: AF speed and AF tracking. AF speed controls how fast the camera pulls focus. In the tests I performed, changing from the fastest to the slowest speed seems to double the time taken to refocus, from about 1 to 2 seconds. There's an associated option to control whether the configured speed applies to both video and stills, or just video. But for the life of me, I can't see why you'd want the camera to focus slowly in stills mode. AF tracking sensitivity controls how quickly the camera attempts to acquire a new subject when the current subject leaves the focus area. A low setting means the camera will not refocus straight away, whereas a high setting means that it will respond more quickly. These settings make relatively small changes to the camera's behaviour, and from a creative perspective, I would have preferred it if there was some form of logarithmic scale, with a maximum value of more like 10 seconds. This would allow slow focus pulls to be achieved. You can use the touchscreen to switch focus from one subject to another, but in doing so you risk introducing both noise and vibration into the resulting footage. A possible way around this would have been to use the remote photography option of the SnapBridge app, but unfortunately you can't use it to select the subject in video mode. The ZFC has stereo microphones and a 3.5mm socket for an external mic. The microphones are built into what would be the viewfinder prism of an SLR, and as you can hear, the sound quality is quite good with a reasonable stereo image. There are, however, some caveats. You'll want to keep your subject quite close to the camera, as at higher recording levels, hiss can creep in. Even at moderate recording levels, there's a possibility the mics may pick up some noise from your lens's focus motor. And finally, filming outdoors may prove problematic in windy conditions due to the fact that there's no windshield and no easy way of attaching one. Almost every review I have seen for cameras in this price bracket complain about the lack of a headphone socket, and the ZFC is no exception. Even the Z30, which is aimed at vloggers, doesn't include one. Currently, as far as I'm aware, the new Z50 Mark II is the only APS-C Nikon camera to feature a headphone jack. So Nikon, if you're watching, here's an idea. Given that every Z series camera has Bluetooth built in, why not permit audio monitoring via Bluetooth headphones? This would be so convenient, especially as almost everyone owns a pair of earbuds these days. Who knows, it might even be possible to provide this feature as part of a firmware upgrade. Unlike the new Z50 Mark II, there's no tally lamp, but the latest firmware includes the option of a red frame around the screen when recording. This is really useful. Recording this with the camera's built-in microphones to see how well they cope with some light to moderate wind. But I've also got a lavalier microphone connected to a digital audio recorder, and I can switch to that if the wind gets too intrusive. Now obviously you can use the ZFC for vlogging, because that's exactly what I'm doing right now. But it wouldn't be my first choice, and I say this for a number of interrelated reasons. Firstly, there's weight. By the time you've added a grip to the ZFC, you're looking at something in excess of 750 grams that you've got to hold at arm's length. Secondly, there's the kit lens. At its widest setting of 16mm, the crop is quite tight, and this further encourages you to hold the camera at arm's length. Finally, there's the fact that the ZFC doesn't have any inbuilt image stabilization, so you have to use EVR if that's what you need, and that's what I have switched on right now. I'll turn it off in a moment so that we can see the difference. Okay, EVR is now off, and hopefully you'll see that there's slightly less tight cropping. One aspect that tends to be overlooked is connectivity and remote control. Nikon's SnapBridge app connects to the ZFC via both Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, providing multiple options. You can use Bluetooth to upload files to your phone or tablet in the background, but be aware that these seem to be limited to just 2 megapixels. You can use Wi-Fi to upload files to your phone or tablet in the foreground. You can use the app to provide location information to the camera, enabling it to geotag images as they are taken. You can use the app to remotely control the camera for shooting both stills and video. Nikon's MLL7 remote control connects to the camera via Bluetooth and provides a number of improvements over the previous MLL3 infrared remote control. Operation is not limited to line of sight. Unlike the MLL3, you can shoot both stills and video with the same control. If you're using the new 12 to 28 power zoom lens, you can even control the zoom remotely. There are also 2 assignable function buttons. There is, however, one unforgivable downside. When the camera's inactivity timer kicks in and it blanks the screen, it also drops the Bluetooth connection to the remote control. Why Nikon have done this is beyond me. A wireless remote control is a great way to take candid pictures of both people and wildlife, but dropping the connection after a brief period of inactivity is just brain dead. Let's hope they fix this in a future firmware update. No product is perfect, and there are a few areas where I think the ZFC could be improved. Dust ingress is by far my biggest complaint. In an SLR, the sensor is located inside a mirror box that only opens during an exposure and protects the sensor when you change lenses. This isn't the case with a mirrorless camera. In the 2 years that I've owned my ZFC, I've already experienced more dust on the sensor than in the previous 14 that I owned a DSLR. A nice feature would be if the shutter was locked in the closed position, covering the sensor when the camera was switched off. I've already mentioned the crowded top plate, with some clumsy button placements. A casualty of the switch from buttons to an exposure compensation dial is the fact that flash exposure compensation is no longer possible from the camera's top plate, and has to be done with a menu. I've assigned this function to the iMenu as a reasonable workaround. I typically use 3 lenses: a short-range zoom, a long-range zoom, and a nifty 50 equivalent prime. When I bought my first DSLR, all 3 lenses used the same filter thread. Today, each of my 3 lenses now has a different filter thread. Although I generally only use 3 filters, this means that I have 9 separate ones. But if you look at the size of the objectives on these lenses, they don't all fill the lens barrel, so there's room to make the filter diameter almost any size you want. Come on Nikon, how hard would it be to standardize on the same filter diameter in most cases? You can change the camera's picture control in any mode other than full auto. The viewfinder and screen display an image that reflects the selected picture control, but if you shoot in RAW, this has almost no impact on the resulting image. Although the RAW file has an embedded JPEG that reflects the picture control you selected, when you come to process that file, Either in camera or in Nikon's View and XI application, it doesn't default to the option that you selected. It's a minor point, but given that the selected picture control is present in the metadata, wouldn't it be nice if this was the one that was selected by default? So who's the ZFC for, and why would you want to buy one? My personal view is that the ZFC is an ideal camera for enthusiastic amateurs. In addition to good performance and great looks, it has a rich feature set which will meet the needs of a wide range of people. I can answer the second question in just one word, and that word is fun. The ZFC is a fun camera to use. Recently, there's been a resurgence of people shooting film, and the reasons that I hear bandied around are things like, it makes you go more slowly, it's more mindful, and it's more tactile. I recently bought myself a film camera and shot a few rolls of film to remind myself what it was all about. And I can tell you that the ZFC will take you quite a long way down the same path, especially if you turn the screen to face the camera and attach a prime lens and shoot in aperture priority as opposed to full auto mode. Whilst the ZFC doesn't have a built-in flash, its EVF and fully articulated screen means that it provides an excellent stills and video balance, and that's why I bought it. Specifications wise, the ZFC isn't class leading in any respect, with its two standout features being how it looks and how it feels when you're using it. Whilst this may seem like faint praise, it's only fair to say that it also doesn't have any major flaws. Other cameras may have higher resolution sensors, a faster burst rate and better autofocusing, but the ZFC performs more than well enough in all of these aspects and is never embarrassed. A final advantage compared to my old DSLR is the 20% size and weight reduction. It doesn't sound much, but for me the ZFC has crossed the line. There's an old saying in photography that the best camera is the one that you have with you. I now have the ZFC with me much more often than my old D50-300 as it's so much easier to carry around. Its only real shortcoming is the fact that its retro styling makes it slightly more difficult to hold than a conventionally styled digital camera, especially when fitted with a long lens. However, that's easily rectified with one of the grips that are available. That's all from me. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching.